Evening everyone. So in this video I want to talk about ayahuasca specifically. As soon as people hear I'm a shamanic practitioner, they expect that I run ceremony with ayahuasca, San Pedro, mushrooms, you name it. They think that I run ceremony with these plants. I don't. And I will always tell them that I don't have the training, I don't know enough about them to know what I'm doing and how to hold space. So I refer them on to friends, mostly international, who I truly believe know what they're doing and who I have put my life in their hands before. Now, ayahuasca it's one of the most fascinating medicine plants, in my opinion, as it's made up of at least two psychoactive ingredients. The first is the ayahuasca vine, the capi vine, sometimes known as the vine of the dead. Now, this in itself, when drunk in a tea, it is sometimes traditionally drunk by itself in a tea. It doesn't have visionary effects, it's not a hallucinogen. What it is an MAOI inhibitor. So when you take the vine and mash it, and then add the leaves from the chacruna or psychotria plant, which is a very close relative to the coffee plants and coffee beans. When you take psychotria or chacruna and you take the leaves and you mix that in with the beaten vine of ayahuasca and boil it and process it, this is what creates ayahuasca as the medicine we know of. The MAOI inhibitor, it means that the ayahuasca medicine will last a lot longer. If any of you have ever smoked DMT, you will know that it only lasts for a matter of anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes. It's very short, it feels like a lifetime, but in reality, in this reality, it's a very short amount of time. Ayahuasca, when it's mixed with this, chacruna when it's mixed with this, can last anywhere from 3 to 6, even longer than that, hours that you will be sitting in ceremony, having visions, having downloads from spirit, having thoughts, purging a lot, purging way more than you'd like to. So the mix of these two is what creates the ayahuasca that we know of, the medicine. There are two ways that this is done. The most common way these days is that you sit in circle in ceremony and everyone drinks a cup at least. I've been in ceremony where we've been offered up to 3 cups over a period of time. I believe I drank 2 cups in that ceremony. Yeah, I think I had 2. But this isn't always the case. Traditionally, the shaman will drink the ayahuasca and then go around the circle individually seeing to each person who is sat in ceremony, healing them, doing whatever needs to be done under the influence of the spirit of ayahuasca, as it essentially takes them over and tells them what needs to be done and how to do it. It is a lot more complicated than that. There's a lot more things that come into play, but that's keeping it very simple. So it's always interesting with ayahuasca because if it is done in a ceremony where everyone drinks, it's quite common that people will either share visions or share thoughts. And there seems to be this interlink between people in ceremony where there's this breakdown of barrier and you can almost have psychic experiences between other people sitting in the circle. And visions of snakes quite often come in, as the snake is the I guess, totem, the representation of ayahuasca. With the vine and everything, it is very snake-like, and when you drink it, it feels like a snake as it slowly works through your body, and you feel this warmth sort of coming inside from the inside of your body and working its way up like a snake. When it comes to the preparation of ayahuasca, from the second that it's decided the brew is going to be made to the final point where it's drunk and the last person leaves ceremony, it is a whole ceremony within itself. Sourcing the vine is, you will pray to it, you will give offerings, you will blow tobacco over it, asking for its permission to be cut and used. That piece will be cut, it will be brought back, it will be smashed into a pulp-like substance in strands of the vine. It will then be put into a pot with the chacruna, which again is offered and asked and blown tobacco smoke on, asking permission to use that plant, use those leaves. Once it's all put in a pot and it starts boiling, Icarus, special songs are sung into the mix to ask for healing, to pray for many other things, to help the earth. And all through this process is done with deep, deep respect for the plants. Tobacco smoke will then also be smoked and blown out over the mix as it's being prepared. Mapacho is tobacco that's native to South America. Now, it's an interesting plant. In the West, we get a really bad rap about tobacco. In Peru, it's probably the staple of medicines. It essentially, as far as I've ever known, it is the one plant spirit that is an ally to all other plant spirits. There are different things you can put into ayahuasca, and those spirits do work, they do interact together. But tobacco is the one plant spirit that can be used in any ceremony, in any context, and will never fight against another spirit or have any conflict with that spirit. So it is used again and again and again in South American, well, worldwide really. Every culture I know of uses tobacco as a sacred plant, whether it's dropping offerings on the earth, whether it's being smoked. It is a plant that's held in very, very high regard in these traditions. Now, once the brew is ready, it will be bottled, and essentially, it doesn't last forever, but essentially it will wait until the right ceremony comes along for that particular brew to be used. I don't know too much about that side of things, but I do know that it is collected and stored, and there may be, 10 different brews to pick from, and there'll be one brew that calls out and says, hey, I'm for this ceremony, I'm for these people. And then that one will be unbottled and given out to the group or drunk by the shaman, and he'll go around to the group. It's a very complex medicine, as it changes. The traditions behind it change again and again and again, depending on where you are, what region you're in, what tribe you're with, who is conducting ceremony. There are certain things, I believe there's one shaman I know of who does ayahuasca ceremony during the day. Apart from her, everyone else I know who runs ceremony does it at night. So as the sun starts to set, you'll sit down, there'll be a bit of talking, a bit of discussion, Then you'll drink the ayahuasca. By this time it's dark, and the ceremony will go on until, say, midnight, give or take. And this is the most common way that it's done. I believe the other important thing to say about ayahuasca is that beyond the chemical effects that are happening in your brain and are inducing you to be able to be in a place where you can have these visions, have these insights without your brain sort of blocking you from seeing them. A lot of people will say, oh, it's just imagination. It's just chemicals working in your brain. I definitely believe that it's the chemicals working in your brain to be able to unlock yourself, to have these visions, to have this imagination without the ego holding it back and saying, no, that's stupid, that's just something you're imagining, forget about it. And it allows you to get into a much, much deeper state. Now, there is so much that goes into an ayahuasca ceremony that's impossible to say that it's the most important part. But a part that I hold in any plant ceremony, I hold in very, very high regard is the Icarus, the magic songs that are sung by the shaman. These songs can be sung for pretty much any reason during ceremony. They can be sung to make you purge. Throw up purges, when used in the context of ayahuasca, purging is throwing up and releasing negative energies. So Icarus can be used to make people purge. It can be used to bring people back if they're starting to get a bit ungrounded. It can be used to send people away a little bit if they're a bit too grounded, if they're trying to fight the medicine and stay in this reality, in this consciousness. Can be used to kind of push them out a little bit and try to get them to go out a bit further. It can be sung for healing. That is a huge one. Different Icarus for different healings, and the shaman may go around the group and sing Icarus to people who are in need of it. Really, any reason you can possibly think of, the Icarus are a very important part of plant ceremony, and especially ayahuasca. Now, the Icarus are songs, and the Shipibo textiles, I think most of you will have seen and know what I'm talking about. You probably already know everything I've talked about. The Shipibo textiles are quite wonderful. I will try and show you a little bit. So that's a small corner of one of my altar mats, which is a Shipibo or Kanebo textile. So the patterning on that is actually the Icarus, it's the songs, it's the pattern of the songs. So the tribes people of the Shipibo and the Kanebo, they can actually trace the patterns on these tapestries, and they can sing the patterns as they go along. So they're not only pretty looking things, although they are incredibly pretty looking, but they also are songs within themselves. It's like looking at a song sheet before you're about to start playing guitar or piano. And if you trace that, it will show you an Icarus, which I find pretty amazing. Now, I think I don't have much more to say. Just give me one moment to just quickly check that I've covered everything. sorry about that. I was just making sure that I covered everything that I had planned to, and that Spirit had nothing more for me. So in a nutshell, that is a brief talk on ayahuasca and a brief talk on not how it works, but how ceremony kind of takes place. There's a lot going on in the background that I haven't touched on. I don't know enough about it to be able to touch on it. This is in no way an explanation on how to do it yourself or anything like that. I do not do ayahuasca by yourself unless you've trained for at least 15 to 30 years. That's what it takes to become an Ayahuascaro, is at least 15 years training. So please do not abuse that. This is just a little bit of information on what happens in ceremony right from the beginning of cutting of the plant to drinking the medicine. So thank you all for listening and watching, and I will upload another video really soon. Cheers.